This is Main Street with Gary Allen. Now, here's Gary.
No, it's not Gary.
There is no Gary.
Where the hell is he?
I don't know. Dave LaMont, Jeff Deforrest, Tommy is here as well, wearing the wrong color Charger hat.
The original color. The original.
Yeah.
This is the San Diego one.
Right. Well, that's the San Diego was originally the pale blue, the aqua, and yellow.
I've got one of those.
Yeah, that's more
You
like
want me to change?
No, it's all right. It's the holidays.
All right.
We'll let you slide.
But Gary I believe Gary's on vacation, right, or somewhere. He's not in town, so we're taking over.
Yeah, it's about time.
For the holiday spectacular.
Yes, it is a spectacular. Salud, slancha, as the
boys.
Irish would say. Here's looking up your old address, according to Henry Blake.
How you doing, Dave LaMont?
I'm okay, Defa. How are you?
I'm doing well, and oddly, good friend of mine, you may know him as well, Brett Tesler. We call him the agent to the stars. He's an NFL agent for many, many years and has been very successful. And what does he send me a picture of? The whole Cesta ceremony before the game. He was at Dania Highlight today.
Okay, well, that's where I'm at. Yeah,
was he the only guy there? I mean, how's the crowd?
The crowd today was actually pretty good. You know, we only have a few hundred seats now. What's happened to Highlights? It's basically a landing strip as part of the casino at Dania Beach. So we don't have the crowds of thousands anymore. We understand and accept that. So I thought today's crowd was pretty decent, actually. So I don't know what game he was at, but I hope he enjoyed the announcing.
I think he kept boxing the 7-8 in exactas, and then
that would not work out well for him today, or most any days.
That was my suggestion. I said, you know what, the outside team
good for you.
Well, because they double the points right after they get on the
They
court.
double the points after the first round.
Yeah,
and I'm staying here because I'll be back tonight for more games.
Oh yeah, they do doubleheaders still. That's insane.
Two doubleheaders and one Sunday matinee at 1:00, and then night performances. It's only a 3-month season. It is not like the 9 months that you used to do a long time ago. So it's very compact, and so you try to get in as many performances as you can to make it worthwhile for everybody.
Now, do you still play, Dave LaMont?
No, I currently with my eye situation, I would definitely not want to go back out there. But no, I haven't. I came here a couple of years ago for some promotional thing, and I threw the ball around a little bit, but I haven't played since. And frankly, Jeff, I've never had an athletic activity I've enjoyed more than playing highlight.
Not those battles in the paint against that guy Bruce when we used to play.
No, not even that much. That was fun, but nothing like playing highlight. I remember when I was full-time here in the 80s, and obviously a lot younger, I had a regular Saturday afternoon game when we didn't have a matinee, and I blew off my 10-year high school reunion because it conflicted with my Saturday afternoon game. I wanted to play. That was more important to me than going to a high school reunion.
Well, I can tell you, Tommy, it showed because we used to occasionally get roped into these media games, and Dave could play, Frank Fort could play,
a little bit, yeah.
Linkenberg, formerly with the Miami News, could play a little bit, and everybody else was a complete waste of time, including our good friend Joe Zagacki, who nearly, and you're very close with Ed Berliner, who really didn't display a lot of athletic ability when he was out there. I don't know. Do you recall that the same way as I did?
Yeah, neither one. I mean, it's not an easy sport to pick up.
No, it's impossible.
You know, and your first instinct is, well, you know, this is the fastest game on the planet. The ball routinely crosses 100 miles an hour, 120, 130. The world record's like 180 something. So, you know, I'm going to throw it hard. And that's the biggest mistake you can make when you're starting out. And you'll just throw it sideways and actually endanger people. Which we were playing with a real highlight ball. Yeah, Ed threw one basically at a 90-degree angle, which luckily did not hurt anybody. But that ball is the hardest ball in all the sports.
Yes.
Harder than a baseball, harder than a billiard ball, harder than a golf ball. And it is very dangerous. Getting hurt with it hurts. There's nothing even remotely humorous about it. And so you got to be real careful with that. So
it was shades of Orbea when Berliner was out there. And I do remember nearly being decapitated by one of his shots. The other thing is your tendency is to stab at the ball like you're playing baseball and you got a glove on. And it's the last thing you want to do because you kind of have to, as a woman would say, when you're getting a little bit out of control, ease back a little bit. Just go.
Well, there's a lot of spin in the ball, particularly when a professional throws it.
Yeah.
and you're trying to calm some of that spin down when you make the catch. So you've got to give a little bit. Whereas baseball, you're right. The instinct is you can. I mean, you can pull back a little bit and make a catch, but you reach out. You don't always do that in high lie. That can be a mistake sometimes because that ball is moving fast and it's just a load of juice on it. And you would occasionally get to practice with a professional, and the difference was rather dramatic.
You get that ringing egg ball, you know, wah, 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 when it
Or you
comes.
get them to change directions. That's the thing that used to throw me. When you practice with a really good player, they would throw it, and you think, okay, I don't have this anymore. Wait, did I sign papers for this? Oh crap, I didn't. And you would let it go, or you try to catch it, and hope that it wouldn't hit you. That was always the goal, not to get hit.
Did
Right.
Kevin Kaufman, may he rest in peace?
Yeah,
Did he originate the media game?
I think he did. I think he and
Miami
Marty
Highland?
Fleischman,
Marty
in
Fleischman, of course, one
tandem.
of the
Yeah,
greats.
Marty, a huge figure in the history of highlight in South Florida, came up with this idea to put the media in play. But that was Kevin's thing. Actually, the very first one, Jeff, I'm not even sure I had even met you yet, was in Palm Beach County
Oh, yeah,
at
okay.
the old Palm Beach highlight. I did it with Big Dave Lemon, and then
Oh,
after
Dave
that
could play
came
also. He was
a
good.
little bit. He stopped playing after a while when he started working in highlight. He was always announcing it. But yeah, I'm glad the sport is still alive. There's going to be a documentary coming out soon about it, and of course, sort of through the eyes of a great player. And I was interviewed for that, so I'm looking forward to that. Called Mucho, which
Okay,
is the compliment you give a player when they make a great play.
nice. I
And
was usually cursing out a player when he dropped the ball or
well,
overserved.
listen, from a spectator's point of view, that's understandably frustrating when but this is, we're not going to be involved in any of that nonsense. But yeah,
I
it's
apologize to Joey, the great Joey Kornblatt. I run into him occasionally. He comes out to one of the shows we do, and yeah, he's hanging in there. He's been battling some health issues,
I think he's
but
doing. Actually, I think I got some good news on him, Jeff.
oh yeah,
His
doing well.
health has taken an upturn.
Oh, good, because
Yeah,
he's a
that's
sweetheart
what
of
I
a
was
guy.
told. Yeah,
Yeah, and I apologize to him before I say even hello. I just apologize to him for all the times I cursed him out when out of the 6 hole. He was 3 to 5, and all the blue hairs were screaming, "Joey, Joey!" And unfortunately, you can't win every point. And highlight was great because it really it was the epitome of everything that the South Florida sports fan is all about. Because you're rooting for a player on one go round, and then you're rooting against them in the second round.
sometimes, yeah,
You
depending on what the numbers were.
completely turn your entire emotions and efforts to root somebody on, much like Dolphin fans do once you get to halftime of a game. You
Yeah,
just start
Dolphins,
rooting for the
Jets,
other team.
Dolphins, Bills. Yeah, it was interesting. It's funny how you mentioned that. Not that it happened, but I was at the Packers Seattle game in Seattle on Sunday night.
I heard about
And,
that.
yeah, and it was the amount of Packers fans there was most impressive, and that is a loud stadium with a very strong fan base in Seattle. They pride themselves on the 12th man and making and being a factor in the game. And I can tell you this: it was very loud. I was sitting in the upper deck, kind of a mixed area where I was at, but the Seattle people were into it until it was 14-0, and then all of a sudden the "Go Pack Go" cheers began to dominate. And
Wow.
as the Packers
Wow.
continued to run the show, the fans took over. And I don't know what the attendance was. I would say at least a quarter, maybe even a little more, were people in the green and gold. I mean, it's fan bases like them in Pittsburgh and Buffalo and a couple of others. I'm not leaving everybody out, but I think are the outstanding fan bases in the NFL. And these folks do not sway their allegiance ever.
It's kind of like being at SoFi Stadium, though, where
Yeah, no, you're right.
the other team scores. I remember this distinctly. I don't know if I used to do some announcements down on the field before the ball game with the Dolphins, and I would sort of MC some of the ridiculous shows that they had when they brought out Hootie the Owl and whatever,
Yeah.
and the baby races. These were highly distinguished highlights of my career, and but I had to make my way to some kind of seat. I wasn't really a press box guy. I like to be in a stand so I could enjoy the ball game and the atmosphere. I didn't want to sit up there in silence and not be able to yell and scream and have a good time. And so I was in the bowels of the stadium there. You've been in this circumstance many times, I'm sure, having to make your way up to a location. And I'll never forget, the stadium erupts. It's shaking. I'm on my way up in one of the catacombs there. And
Well, it didn't take much to make that place shake.
Yeah, well, it wasn't the Orange Bowl. This was Joe Robbie at the time,
Oh.
and sure, yeah, the Orange Bowl was built by an erector set, and it would have collapsed if this had happened. But and I'm thinking, oh shit, I missed the Dolphins score, because I'm also reporting on the games and doing halftime and postgame shows on the radio, and I was shocked when I looked up on the score, but I finally got outside and got to a location where I could see what was going on, and it was the New York Giants that had put up the 7.
It's so funny you say that because I think the Giants played the Dolphins, I don't know, the last time they were in town, and it's been a while. And I was watching the game on television and probably not paying super strict attention. And I hear all this crowd noise and I go, oh, and I look up and it's the Giants having made a big play.
Yeah.
Obviously anybody in South Florida understands the New York, New Jersey influence around here. But people who are not from the area and may not be aware of it, it's still strong. I always say, well, the Dolphins, the Jets have another home game this week. They're coming to Miami. And it's almost that way for Buffalo people, especially now because their team is so good. You have probable MVP in Josh Allen, although I guess Saquon Barkley and Lamar Jackson could still say something about that. But Allen is right now operating at an insane level. It's a bizarre market because of how many transients we have. I imagine, and you mentioned SoFi, it's more the Chargers than the Rams.
Yeah, the Chargers have no fans. 0.
Right.
One.
Oh, there you go. I'm sorry about that.
But
This guy
fan.
is Gene Klein from the grave. I mean, he's still a Charger.
But Tommy, you would be badly outnumbered at SoFi if you showed up with that hat and tried
Of course.
to beat the Chargers. It's
You might
unbelievable.
take a beating. Yeah, in a parking lot. You might have to be
Right.
careful.
Well, if it's a Raiders Chargers game, I would imagine it's 90% Raiders.
And I wonder about how strong those fans are in Vegas, and especially with the team sucking right now. And again, Vegas is kind of a transient city with a lot of people from a lot of different places who settle there, primarily California, but still. So they may have some Raiders fans from either LA or Oakland, but I often wonder what that crowd is like at a Raider game if they still have some of that craziness that they used to have when they were in Oakland.
Well, in LA they weren't as popular.
I got a call here that's saying our guest is ready to pop in the studio.
I didn't even know we had a guest. This ought to be interesting to
it's
me.
weird.
Maybe this is something
see
Gary did.
Who's coming on?
I don't know.
Aikman or Collinsworth?
Maybe Gary arranged something and didn't tell us, which wouldn't be the first time.
Whoa!
Oh, for God's sakes.
North Pole.
My boy.
Oh, I've been watching you guys from backstage.
Whoa.
Well,
He's
that's
looking
bad
on
news
the
for
show.
that's bad news for the naughty nice part, huh?
Oh,
I guess we're getting nothing, huh?
Oh, so
Well,
what's going
coal's going to
on
be
for
popular
Christmas,
again, guys. So, be a lot more coal around for Santa in the next few years to throw around.
Well,
Santa,
anyway,
what I thought you would be like elbow deep in prep for the big day. What are you guys doing?
That's why I have so many thousands of elves. I mean,
paying them okay?
I'm a retail toy maker.
You wrap all of those gifts yourself, or do you have help with that?
Oh, I have help with that. Mrs. Claus and all the little Mrs. Clauses. I got a regular harem up there.
Well, now that might be something that we may have to make this a dark channel and discuss that at another time.
Well, Dave, we will discuss that at another time. I mean, of course, with Jeff DeForrest on here, we got to ease back a little,
Yeah, be careful. I mean, shouldn't this guy, Dave, have a little bell and a big, kettle in front of him and be
in front of Publix?
Yeah.
I haven't seen those guys this year.
Now, Dave, I understand you had a wonderful trip to Seattle where your Green Bay Packers won. How was that?
It was great because they won. Otherwise, the whole 5,400 miles worth of airtime would have not been nearly as much fun. But there's some cool things to do in that city also. I highly recommend the Pop Culture Museum, where you can just play with musical instruments for like hours on end if you want.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, do we have any questions for me as far as the NFL is concerned? I mean, I've got some coal coming to Bill Belichick for going to North Carolina. Don't know what the man's thinking.
No, I think I know what the man's
NFL
thinking.
wants him.
No, nobody in the NFL does want him, so he takes the first opportunity. It's going to be fascinating. I don't know. Belichick undoubtedly gets Cole a few times, but I don't know if you've checked out some photos of him recently with the young lady he's keeping time with. So,
Are you
Really?
delivering massive vials of Viagra to Bill Belichick to keep pace with this 24-year-old? Because I
maybe
know,
an IV.
yeah. I mean,
Oh.
what's the story there? I mean, what kind of gifts are you delivering to Belichick? Not that he needs it.
Well, last year he wanted a blow-up doll of Taylor Swift, but unfortunately I couldn't deliver that because they were all bought out by the Kelsey brothers, so I couldn't do
I think
that.
one of them has the real thing. And by the way, if you're Jason Kelsey, you don't need no blow up doll.
No, that's true, but when she's away, you never know. You want to keep in good shape. You know how athletes are, Dave. You're one yourself. You got to
Repetition,
stay in
you're right.
shape.
You have to
I mean,
practice.
you got to keep the pump primed. You know what I'm saying?
Words I never thought I'd hear from Santa, Defo.
Yeah, I mean, it's a real degenerate Santa Claus that we have. Here.
Yeah, it's like the Billy Bob Thornton version.
Well, I got to tell you right now, and as far as some of the other stuff is going on, I want to deliver a big piece of coal to Jonathan Taylor from the Indianapolis Colts. What was that man thinking, running into the end zone and releasing the ball on the 1 yard line? What was he thinking, Dave LaMont?
Well, I don't know if there was any thinking involved. I don't know how he just lost his place. I don't understand it. It happens like once a year or twice a year. A guy will just lose sight of where he's going. I don't understand it at all. I mean, it's just the same thing as striking out on a 20-mile-an-hour pitch from a right fielder who's pitching because it's 21-2. I mean, it's unfortunate. It's silly. It's embarrassing. And there's no excuse for it at the professional level. I wouldn't expect to see that at a 6-year-old flag game.
Yeah, the Colts though were great in that game too because they tried that flea flicker play that got picked off and run back for a touchdown before the ball even crossed the line of scrimmage. I think that's one. I don't know how you feel about this, and I don't know if you know the origins of the rule because I don't. I don't know that it was instituted this business about the ball rolling through the end zone and becoming a touchback.
That's been around forever.
Is I know with Kenny the Snake Stabler, they had to put a rule in place because he rolled the ball towards the end zone, or the Raiders.
Well, he just rolled the ball. Period. I think the end zone part was irrelevant. That was a deliberate fumble, and so they put try to put a
rule in on that. And of course,
Dave, wasn't that in the game the post to the ghost play? One of the plays.
No, that was against the Chargers. Tommy should know that, and. It was Stabler near the end of the game, very inventively just said, okay, I'm about to get sacked. I'm just going to get rid of it and hope that they think it's a fumble. And they kept advancing it and advancing it and advancing it until somebody fell on it in the end zone. And they got a touchdown out of it. And now, so the rule was changed the following year that you can't do that kind of thing. You can't advance the fumble. Basically what they did is created their own, almost a game of rugby in a way with that. So, it was, look, give the Snake credit for ad-libbing. Which apparently he was pretty good at when he wasn't on the field either.
I could tell you stories, Dave.
Well, I'm sure he was on your naughty list every year, Santa Claus. I don't doubt that for a second.
He was probably a scratch every season, but is it not overwhelmingly punitive to have that be the result of a ball rolling through the end zone, or even going? It goes beyond the pylon and rolls sideways out of bounds.
What would you like in its place? If nobody covers the ball, so it's not a touchback. If the defense gets it, it just rolls through unclaimed. What would you want to see?
Maybe a penalty if they thought that it was done for some purpose, or you assign or ascribe a stupidity penalty for cases like Taylor. And we've seen.
Why would that be a penalty? What rule have you broken?
I don't know, but I mean, to give the ball back to the other team, it seems excessive, doesn't it?
No, I think it's a great punishment. If you can't cover that ball and the other team can't. Now, what does happen is sometimes the defense does a little SWAT job. Oh, I had it. Oh, I can't find it. Oh, it's kind of like Santa dropping gifts on other people's houses by accident. It's the same principle.
Dave, Santa never drops bad gifts on anybody.
No, hopefully just good ones. But I'm okay with it, Jeff. I think that's the least of my problems with NFL rules. I think it's not a rule. It is a rule, but it's. I don't know.
What happened there in that Miami Dolphin game, Dave, against the Dallas Cowboys?
You mean the Leon Lett thing or the?
Yeah.
Well, that same thing, same principle. I mean, he had it knocked away from him because he was celebrating on his way down. But I don't know. I don't think a penalty is appropriate because
Maybe not, but put the ball at the 20 or
well,
whatever.
why get the ball? Why give him the ball if he couldn't hang on to it? You're just assuming.
Well,
Jeff
the
is
last
on.
team that
Jeff,
possessed the ball is the offensive team in that case.
but
Now,
Jeff,
if a
you're
defender
onto the right
touches it
thing
and it
there.
rolls through the end zone, does it still come out as a touchback?
Say again?
Let's say a defender got his hand on the ball but didn't get possession.
Yeah, still a
Does it
touchback.
remain a touchback and the
Yeah.
defensive
Yeah.
team recovers the ball?
Yeah,
Gets
that
it?
happened in Super Bowl V. The Colts fumbled the ball all over the place, and the Cowboys couldn't recover it. It went out of the end zone. They brought it back out for the Dallas Cowboys on the 20-yard line.
So Santa, when you're not
It sounds like
working,
Greg Cosell with this stuff.
well,
I mean,
well, I was
didn't
going
know
to
that.
ask. That's what I was going to ask Santa. This is obviously your busiest time of the year. I'm
Yeah.
amazed you even took time to sit with us. But
Yeah.
what happens after Christmas? I mean, do you guys have a big meeting and plan for the next year, or what do you do? Do you knock off? What do you do?
Well, we go over the naughty and nice list of who left me food and cookies and stuff. And Dave, you're a little falling behind on that one. I
Yeah.
got to tell you, though.
You're
Although
darn
Jeff,
right.
thank you so much for the Buffalo Trace last year. That was really very kind of you. I appreciate that. That got me through
I'm
North
sending you all of
America.
my losing tickets. Expect a high volume of mail over the next couple of weeks. So all of my losing
Yes.
tickets from Gulfstream.
But after Christmas, I kind of sit back with my directors of operation. We go over the naughty or nice list, who was naughty or nice to me on Christmas Eve, and then we move forward from there. But I got to tell you, someone who's got a big, not only a lump of coal, but a big, huge bag of coal, Donald the Cockroach Trump.
Oh man.
Well, I wasn't aware he had a nickname, but
He's got a new haircut. Let me see if I got a picture of that
Can
somewhere.
we see
here.
that haircut there?
There it
Look
is.
at
There's
that
a new haircut.
Are you getting us some bronzer, Santa?
Oh,
You look
yes.
a little pale in the
Jeff,
picture
you're going to
on the
get
right.
some bronzer. Dave will, and Tommy for sure. I mean, Tommy's so white, he lays in the bed with a white sheet, and his wife doesn't know who he or where he is.
Well, that could happen on a regular basis anyway.
Yeah, that's a
Yeah.
ghost
You guys
move.
have
Absolutely.
relationships anything like I did over the years.
And by the way, Dave, to answer your question that you sent me a letter,
Yeah.
I am trying to find the air hockey game for you that you wanted back in 1966.
I want the one that I had when I was a kid. It wasn't air hockey, but if you remember, Santa, it was the one that had the little metal poles and it had just two teams. I think it was Montreal and Toronto.
Yeah.
And I would play that, and it had the wooden puck. Now, I didn't have, I was an only child, still am, and had to kind of play by myself, but I did anyway, and I thought that was the coolest thing on earth. Air hockey, however, would be a suitable substitute. I'm just trying to figure out
you're
where
a
in
little
the
bit
house
older
I can
now.
put it. Yeah, but
Well, I
this would be fine. And also, by the way, Santa, while we're at it, I'd like to get back all of the Sports Illustrated board games I threw away that my mother made me throw away. The college football one from the 70s, the pro football one from the 70s. Either of those two would be just great for my spare time.
My assistant is over here making notes of all this.
Yeah,
so
these are hard to find. Your assistant may have to go to eBay for these. They don't make them anymore. They barely make Sports Illustrated anymore.
Yeah.
So, yeah, Santa, what about, is there somebody that's going to get a nice present from you? Somebody that you're really happy with?
Well, right after Christmas, Mrs. Claus gets a very happy gift for me.
Sending it in all directions and fashions.
Hey, you
I-
set
I
me
don't-
up.
Can you
You set
possibly
me up, Lamont. Yes,
I
actually,
miss
and
this game.
there is someone. There is someone, and that's Mario Cristobal is going to get a very nice gift from me. As you know, I love the Hurricanes. I vacation down in Miami a lot of the year, to get out of the cold. And Mario Cristobal is going to get a very nice gift for me this year. He and his wife, for the good work that they've been doing at the University of Miami, not only on the field but off the field. And the graduation rate of athletes down there is just really something else. And I'm very proud of that. And I hope it continues on in spite of the transfer portal, which I understand, things are going well in that direction for Miami as well. But yes, and also too, I'm going to send, of course, to your wife, Dave, is going to get a nice Christmas gift this year because she's been very kind to you, going with you to the Packer games, and she deserves something after being married to you for all these years.
Yeah, there's no doubt about it. And it'd probably be a nicer gift than what I'll be able to afford to get her this year. But thank you very much. Defo, you've been on not you would actually exchange that gift for Cristobal for Cole, but I'll offer this in his defense. In 2 seasons, he started with 5 wins. He's doubled that total. They're far from a perfect football team.
Yeah.
But they're better. I mean, I think if you took it, I think what frustrated everybody, and I've always said that the dirtiest word in the sports dictionary is expectations.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you're teased into thinking one thing and the other happens, then it's this gigantic letdown. Oh, Miami! Oh my God! Look at this. They got this great quarterback. They've got they lost. Damn it! Whereas you're a Florida Gator fan, you actually felt better about your 7-win team than I think some Miami fans felt about their 10-win team. Because halfway through, a lot of Gator people I know not only were giving up, but they were perfectly willing to pack bags and tape them shut for Billy Napier to get him out of town.
Yeah, he seemed to be on the Ed Orgeron hot seat, which hopefully you'll get him a hot
Tigers!
Santa Orgeron.
By the way, is there any truth to the rumor that Orgeron may sign as a defensive assistant with Miami, Dave?
No, I haven't heard that one.
Yeah. But to your assertion there about Mario Cristobal, I heard a stat that was put out by a couple of guys on the radio that happened to be listening to Hockman and Crowder. And they brought this up that Cristobal is like 23-15 in his tenure as a Miami Hurricanes coach. And Manny Diaz, who they ran out of town. I mean, with dogs chasing him as if he was at Michael Vick's place in Virginia. And he was like one game worse, and they couldn't stand him. But here's where I am with Mario Cristobal. There were certain things, in my estimation, you need to know your job. And as a coach, there were certain things that I find inexcusable. That business where he didn't take a knee in the game against Georgia Tech, what was that, last year?
Yes.
I mean, that is so inexcusable. You cannot. I know Eric Spoelstra called a timeout when he didn't have one, but his overall body of work is enough that you can kind of shrug that off. In Cristobal's case, he's been guilty of these sort of things, both in his tenure at Oregon.
But don't you? Wait a minute. You have to let that go, Jeff. That was a year.
But I would, except for the fact that I thought that was the most atrocious approach. You know that Aaron Rodgers and Matt LaFleur probably cemented their divide, if you can do that. I mean, just completely parted like the Red Sea. When Rodgers had a chance on a 4th down to go for a game-winning score against Tom Brady and the Buccaneers a couple of years ago, and the Bucs won the Super Bowl, they're in the NFC title game, and instead of giving Aaron Rodgers one more swipe, he kicks a fucking field goal, and then figures maybe I can recover an onside kick and win the game. Disaster. And to have Cam Ward, Heisman Trophy candidate, a guy who has gotten you out of every jackpot that you put your team in all throughout the season, whether it was Cristobal or the players, and say, I'm at the 10-yard line, I'm not going to give this guy one stroke to try and tie the ball game up. I'm instead going to kick a field goal where I need to get possession of the ball again when your defense couldn't stop a runny nose at that point. You're essentially conceding the game. And I think that was such a coaching blunder.
No, that was this year.
And you combine that with the stuff that we've seen from Mario in the past in that regard, including losing that Georgia Tech game, which was a mathematical permutation impossibility from the point that he was at. These are coaching mistakes that I can't excuse away. I look at that. I don't care if the team's improved. He's got transfer.
How can you not care?
Shapiro's out of jail.
Wait. How can you not care if the team improves? That's
I mean, it improved to what? I mean, Manny Diaz was almost the same coach in terms of record, and they couldn't stand this guy.
Right.
So why is Cristobal all of a sudden a fair point?
Because they're on an uptick as far as wins goes. Now, here's the trick. The thing that Diaz couldn't do and that Mario hasn't been able to do yet is get them to the ACC title game. Let me think. Who was coach when they got to the ACC title game?
Wasn't that the guy that they brought in for a while?
Was that Mark Richt?
I think so.
Mark Richt. Yeah.
Okay, so Diaz couldn't do it, and so far Cristobal hasn't been able to do it. Here's the problem with Diaz. Diaz was around when they lost to FIU.
Right.
Diaz was around when they lost to Louisiana Tech and probably the worst bowl game in Miami Hurricanes history. And those were 2 losses that, like you hang on to the Georgia Tech one, people hung on to. I think FIU is even worse in that one. That would be because they're FIU and they're a bad football program. They can't win. And the last guy actually to have success there, oddly enough, was Cristobal. So I think those are the things that hurt Diaz were
Butch
losses.
didn't do too bad there.
Uh,
It wasn't a major accomplishment, but he had him at least contentious.
That's a very
they
Jeff.
may
That's
have
a very
gotten them to
difficult
bowl
school.
game. And I agree. The stadium is horrendous. You're completely overshadowed. You're not getting the best athletes. You don't have great facilities compared to how Miami has upgraded over the years, starting with Rick and then Diaz and then a Cristobal. But I'm a little bit more willing to ride with Cristobal. Number one, we don't have a choice. His buyout is pretty extensive, and the next step is obviously to get to the ACC title game. Now you've lost your star quarterback. Are you going to get another one? Which is very possible. It looks like, but we'll see what he does from there. Obviously, the things that need to be improved. Yes, is game management and also a defense. It doesn't appear that we're going to have any dramatic coach firings because that would have already happened, and unless they do it after the bowl game. But I'm okay with Cristobal so far. The Georgia Tech thing. I've gotten over it. It happened. They blew the game. They blew Georgia Tech again this year. This time because they couldn't stop the run against a team that basically was playing with one arm tied behind its back with a starting quarterback that couldn't throw from where I'm sitting to my laptop. And yet they lived off their backup quarterback and they lived off of a conservative game plan, and it worked because Miami just could not stop people. So
I watched that game. I watched that game from the North Pole. Miami couldn't stop them from running on the outside of the edges no matter what they tried to do.
And that shouldn't happen with any Miami team because ideally you're supposed to be recruiting fast people. And so clearly there has to be major improvements. But doubling your win total in 3 years is still an accomplishment. A lot of coaches have not done that in their
Some would
time.
point to the schedule, though. Very soft this year. They didn't
It
play
was soft,
any of
but
the power.
nevertheless, they also used to have a problem losing. And here's another thing,
Well,
Jeff,
and look at
probably
the number of
talked about
times
this
they were
before.
on the ropes, Dave. I mean, Cal
Oh,
had
I
them
know,
on the jugular.
but they won.
A missed call by the officials late in the ball game gets
Which-
the Hurricanes the ball back, and they drive it and score because of the sensational play of Cam Ward. I don't know that a lot of this is attributable to Cristobal. Let me ask you this, though. When they do the matchup boxes in the newspaper before the game or online, wherever you're getting your information now, and I don't know if they're on the schedule, but and it's North Carolina. And they have offense, check mark, Hurricanes, defense, check mark, North Carolina, maybe. Coaching. Are you going to put the check in Mario Cristobal's box over Bill Belichick? And then the one that Belichick wins on, as Santa alluded to earlier, every single time, intangibles. Because while Dabo Sweeney is looking for divine intervention to win a game, Belichick is banging some 24-year-old when he gets home and doesn't have a single care in the world.
I don't know if
Jeff, that's not very nice, Jeff.
I would assume they play next year. They did not play this year. And by the way, they didn't beat Mac Brown once. Neither Diaz nor Cristobal were able to beat Mac Brown.
Guy. Yes. Now, what's he going to do, Dave? Is he going to still be involved in college football, or is he finally hanging on?
I think he's quite happy that he's not coaching, and I don't know what he's going to do next. He may move back to Texas, where he is highly regarded. He's got a place in Austin. I'm looking for the North Carolina football schedule, by the way.
Yeah, they don't play him next year.
They don't.
They get it now. North Carolina actually. Gosh, their schedule is not all that difficult. Well, they open with TCU, but yeah, they've actually got a few.
I want to bring up a point to Jeff
anyway.
here. Jeff, in the NFL, a lot of teams over the years that have gone on to win the Super Bowl have won games by 2 or 3 points, 4 points, 7 points or less. Nobody makes a big deal about that, but all of a sudden it's Mario Cristobal. He's winning those close games. Hey, a couple of years ago, the University of Miami wouldn't have won any of those games. Now, yes, they had Cam. Cam made a big difference. There's no doubt about it because that defensive coordinator, I'm going to tell you something, Santa's not giving him anything nice for Christmas this year. That man should be run out of town, tarred and feathered.
2 words.
I wish
Shapiro.
I cared that much.
He's out of jail now, Nevin, and I guess he's been on house arrest or whatever. But yeah, I mean, now that he's back and out and a free man again, I guess he gets his rights restored. And if he's putting the money into the program, and Santa, you would probably have more insight into this than either Dave or I or Tommy. But if he's out there generating some of this, ill-begotten capital, and it goes into the Hurricane NIL. then I'm
Mhm.
all in. I think Cristobal will use the money wisely. But,
No,
but
I do
as a
too.
game
He's
day
a great
coach,
recruiter.
I think he's horrendous. I really do. Inexcusable garbage that we've seen from him over the last several years, and even prior to that at Oregon, I thought he. I don't remember all of the specifics
All
of
right.
it.
Well, you know what? We're wasting our time
Yeah.
with this
Yeah.
conversation because Jeff's never going to move.
You're like trying to convince me to vote for Donald
No,
Trump.
no, I'm not. I'm just trying to get you to
Educate.
get off the mat here, but you won't. So let's go
Yeah.
rip into somebody else.
Yeah.
Let's go find somebody
Well,
we all
listen.
hate.
Hey guys, listen. Santa's got to go because Mrs. Claus
That's
is
it?
calling.
That's
Well,
it.
No,
Santa?
you know,
That's it.
I think.
All right.
Listen.
Well,
One
Jeff and
final
I can
thing.
go back to
that's
arguing
hilarious.
over why he wants Manny Diaz back.
I don't want Manny Diaz back. I'm just saying that Cristobal is
Golden?
guilty of outrageous
No.
mistakes that maybe
Mike Vrabel.
did you watch this Arizona State game when they were in the conference championship game? Dillingham, a candidate for coach of the year, right? Everybody loves this guy.
Yeah. He's got a
Was
great
what? Was
running
he
back.
with Florida State before he went to Arizona State? And highly regarded. He does one of the dumbest things I've seen, and coaching errors. What we see this all the time, even in the pros, where early in a ball game they go for a 4th and 1 on their own 39-yard line. They don't get it. The Bears did it. Now, granted, that their record is so poor that it really doesn't matter what they do. But people are betting on these games. Fans are paying money to come and watch these games. You want them to be contested in a fashion that makes you think that they're certainly on the level. If he kicks a field goal in that spot or punts the ball away and doesn't give Minnesota a quick 3 points, he's in that ball game at the end. He's not in a compromised position. Coaches make these dumb mistakes all the time. This Dillingham has a ball at the 1-yard line. He's already up by a touchdown. And all he has to do, if he rams the ball into the end zone, even on the first play, maybe there's a minute left in the ball game, and BYU in that contest is going to have to, drive the ball the length of the field. And they're unlikely to get 2 scores inside of a minute. Instead, he does this Fugazi thing where he has the quarterback drop back 20 yards, get tackled. Then he drops back another 10 yards, gets tackled. A flag goes, another 15. BYU ends up with the ball at the 50-yard line, and they almost complete a Hail Mary. It almost cost a guy his chance to go to the college football playoffs. They would have been out.
Wow.
And
I didn't
that's
see that
blatant
game.
stupidity. Don't get cute. Scored a touchdown. Ball's game is going to be over. I don't
listen,
know, Dave. You called a lot of games. You must have seen much of this during your
Not
career.
that. No, I didn't see that game. I mean, are there coaching mistakes? Sure. Sometimes I think clock management is strangely difficult for some coaches, and I don't know whether it's because there's
That
so many
Eberflus
things they
deal.
concentrate
Who cares?
on. Yeah, that's another one right there. I don't know why guys are like that. Are they younger coaches with less experience? Cristobal, certainly going back to him since you want him dead, is somebody who certainly has had is experienced enough that he shouldn't be making these mistakes. But there are guys at an even higher level than he is that are making these kinds of mistakes.
Can I bring up something?
I do not know.
Can I bring up something?
Are you still here, Santa? I thought Mrs.
Yeah,
Claus
New
was
England.
like-
Yeah, hold on.
Close.
New England against Indianapolis in Indianapolis about 4 or 5 years ago. Manning against Brady. The Colts were all over them. They couldn't stop the Colts all day long. And Belichick pulls a 4th down and 1 yard to go. The Colts stop him. The biggest blunder in New England history. Well, next to the fact
not true, because the reason he went for it is because they couldn't stop them.
Yeah.
The
He went
rationale
for it because
was
he said,
The
I can't
way
stop
bigger
Manning
blunder in that
today.
play. Well, right. So that's not a blunder.
Well, it's a blunder in the
At
sense
some
of
point, you have to hold the athletes accountable for executing the orders of the coach.
but I think he should have probably tried to run the ball more than throwing a pass out in the flat.
That first off, I don't know if he makes that call, if he actually makes the call. Secondly, Brady has the right to overturn that call.
Right.
And thirdly, a way bigger screw up was the Colts fake something or other several years before that. Where they lined up in some bizarro formation where everybody was off to the right. They had like 3 or 4 people there. They snapped the ball, and the punter is overwhelmed by the New England defense. That's a way bigger blunder. You yourself, Santa, not to pick on you, but for some reason, you guys have really made me angry now.
Yeah, we've
now
gotten
you're in
I love
for it.
this.
Now I'm just going to let you know the next several minutes are going to be miserable.
Out of it, Dave.
So, good news. You're the smart one here. So, Santa. You said it yourself. They couldn't stop him.
Mm.
So if you can't trust your defense, then you only have one other side of the ball to turn to. And when you have the ball, you realize, okay, this is a gamble. It may not work, but what I'm seeing here ain't working.
Hmm.
And I'm okay with that decision. You know,
No,
I,
I'm
I
not. I'm not mad, Dave. I'm not mad at that he tried to go for it on fourth down. What I'm saying is I think he should have probably tried a handoff for 1 yard and try to get it that way instead of a pass out in the flat that really
well,
extended the play out. And that's what gave the Colts an opportunity. Now, yes,
I would
they
take the
couldn't
credit,
stop
though,
the
Tim.
Colts on offense no matter what they were doing that day,
yeah.
and that was a turning point in the whole series.
There was
Listen,
a great
Santa's
example
yeah.
of
Go
what we were
ahead.
talking about in this Bears game the other night. Where the Bears are getting hammered. They have nothing going. They had already failed on a 4th and 1 at their own 39 against Minnesota early in the game, 3 minutes in, 3 points on the board for the Vikings. So we weren't exactly up to speed. They weren't in complete synchronization. Even though they're winning last several weeks, there seemed to be a little bit of a tail off in their offensive output. But then later in the game, you need to have some balls. I mean, in these spots, the play calling. If you're going to do that, the go ahead. Dave, I don't know. You're probably not quite old enough to remember the old Star to Dollar on the 4th and 1, and you can hear the dulcet tones of the great Ray Scott.
More like 3rd and 1. More like 3rd and 1 in those days.
But
They were a
they,
third
they
down
would they
gamble.
would go ahead and run a little play action with Jim Taylor or Paul Horning,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
Star would drop back. And it might have been his only long pass of the game, but he would do it in spots where you're expecting them to just jam the ball right into the middle of the line of scrimmage. And the Bears have this spot where if they throw a pass, any kind of play action pass on that particular play call, they probably score. And they had, I think at the time, either 3 or no points on the board. They hadn't been able to generate anything. So they go ahead, and this guy, Thomas Brown, interim coach for Eberfluss, runs a dive into the line of scrimmage. They fail in that spot. And the next thing you know, that they come away with nothing on a drive that looked like it had a lot of promise and might get them back in the game. So the play calling has been very suspect in all around the
Before,
board, college
Well,
and
I mean, it's either the play calling and the execution. Because if
yeah.
you call a play, you're calling a play you believe in. You're calling a play that you practice. You're calling a play that you've scouted. You're calling a play that you said, okay, here's our short yardage package. These are the plays that we think are going to work against this defense. This is obvious stuff. You guys know this already. At some point, the athletes have to do the job. And
That's
the
true.
other,
Yeah.
I mean, I understand. It's to me, it's like sometimes I know coaches, and at least in my view, get way too much credit, way too much blame. Ultimately, yes, it falls on them. But we talk about other sports, okay, why did that manager put that pitcher in? I don't think he expected the pitcher to hang a curveball for a home run that lost him the game. He picked that pitcher either because, in some cases with pitching, sometimes that's all you got. But sometimes you put a guy in a situation where, okay, this is the guy we like against this batter. I can't help it if he threw a pitch that hung in the strike zone and it got hit all the way out of the stadium. You made the call that you made. Eric Spoelstra makes a decision to make a substitution. Does he now think that guy's going to get in 3 fouls in 5 minutes and miss 3 shots? No, he picked the substitution because he thought, okay, I need a jolt, or I need a guy to cover somebody who's eating us alive, or I think in this situation their defense is vulnerable to this guy's talents. Certainly, a guy.
There are
these are not-
examples, though, and especially
There-
you mentioned baseball, but the cookie cutter manager system. I mean, and Kevin Cash will never live down the fact that he lifted Blake Snell, who I think had given up 2 hits at that point.
Oh,
One of
yeah,
which
that,
was
yeah.
a tapper that went
Yeah.
for an infield single. It was like the Willie Mays swinging bunt when he was with the Mets, and not enough to make you think, my God, this guy has lost it. He had plenty of gas left in the tank in terms of any kind of pitch count metrics. He takes him out of the game, and the next guy gives up a home run, and the ball game's over. You lose the World Series and a chance at the championship. Those are the kind of blunts. I agree with you. Look, players are out there on the field. Coaches, they can't do everything. And 100% agree with you that coaches get too much credit, too much blame. And I'm not one to usually hang the coach out to dry. But when you see these kind of blunders, a lot of them, in my opinion, that type of thing is inexcusable. And we see it a lot with Aaron Boone. And that's why Yankee fans, well, they would be fetching anyway. But
Yeah.
a
good.
couple of clock management, game management, play calling.
Well, clock management's not on the players. There's no doubt that that's clearly a coaching decision, and there are some guys who are really savvy at it. There are other guys who aren't. I think it took Andy Reid some time to become the kind of coach he is now, and he learned the hard way in Philly. He was not known for great clock management when he went to Kansas City, but now you look at the way they win. And they win because he puts them in positions to win. And again, the athletes execute. Ideally, Jeff, your coaches put you in the position to win. and then you have to get it done. Now, have there been bad calls? Yeah, the Super Bowl where the Seahawks threw the interception, Russell Wilson throws an interception when Marshawn Lynch is standing there. Obviously a horrible call. But you know what? If that pass worked, it's a genius call.
Which
if,
it did look
if
like
the Miami kid doesn't fumble the ball against Georgia Tech, it's still not a smart call, but
that was
it
inexcusable.
didn't hang on to the football. It's a bad call. You're right. It's a bad call.
Terrible. You shouldn't have put the player in that position. Yeah.
All right, guys, listen, Santa's got to go.
All right.
I really do.
Close it out. Yeah, go ahead and close it out, Santa.
No, I'm going to let you guys close it out because Mrs. Claus is calling. I just want to say a large lump of coal to Aaron Rodgers. He deserves it. I'm going to give him a big gift certificate to some faraway island. Go there, stay there, never come back. And to the owner of the New York Jets, do us all a favor. Disband the team like the Marlins. Disband the team. Get rid of them. They stink. They will always stink like the Marlins. And Santa's run out of things to give you guys for Christmas as far as help is concerned. Now, Jeff, I have a special Christmas gift for you, and you'll get it on Christmas Day from the missus.
I hope
hope you enjoy it. Tommy, of course, I'm giving you some tanning salon gift certificates, and that'll be great. Dave LaMont, we're going to give your Green Bay Packers a really great shot into the playoffs. I have confidence in there, and 100% behind Mario Cristobal. 100%.
Well, Santa, we have a safe journey on Christmas Eve, Santa. We'll see you at the house.
Hey, listen, Jeff, a little more Buffalo Trace would be appreciated.
All right. I was hoping Santa, you were mentioning these games. I love that hockey game too. You know, the one with the little rods, and you see larger versions of them in places that have.
You don't see them as much anymore as you used to. That was a lot more prevalent a long time ago.
That was better than air hockey, I thought. But electronic football.
Air hockey itself is no. I like now. You remember the USA one? The one was similar to that. The grown-up version of the big bubble, and you drop the puck down. It's like USA versus Russia, something like that. That
I like that one.
That was the bar version of all of that. You know, you mentioned the Marlins. I'm kind of glad that Santa mentioned that because I can't imagine. And the Jets' wounds are inflicted by bad decision making. The Marlins' wounds are inflicted by poor ownership. Jeff, I don't understand something, and I don't think anybody has the answer. But if you were to buy a sports team in one of the 4 pro sports, and because people in Buffalo, I guess, are screaming about what the Pagulas have done with the Buffalo Sabres, as you know, and I don't follow that closely, but I've seen some notice on it. Why would you buy a team and then not try to win?
That's a great question.
It baffles me. For all the crap we give Jerry Jones for his decision making, at least he's thinking he's doing the best things. Now, obviously, the evidence suggests otherwise.
Sure.
It was, I like in Pittsburgh, the Pirates are talking about reducing payroll. They have a pitcher in Paul Skeens, insanely talented pitcher, a guy you could build a team around. Rookie of the year, didn't even play the whole season. And yet they're talking about cutting payroll again. And on the teams that are, and the Marlins are the classic example. And listen, Jake Berger's not going to single-handedly win you a World Series, but he was a competent part of a team that wasn't very good. They've gotten demonstrably worse. And the lather, rinse, repeat pattern. How could you ever spend any money on that team or the Jets or the franchises that seem to be utterly hopeless year in and year out? Why do you own a team? It can't just be ego.
Escalation of franchise value, no matter how bad your team is.
I guess.
And the Lorias made billions of dollars, at least $1 billion. They did it like they were Dave Delgado, not Dave LaMont, with other people's money. Screwed over all of their former partners and investors from the Montreal Expos. Came down here, ended up with a team really like Billy Cunningham and Lou Chaffel ended up with a big piece of the Heat when they were originally sold. But if you look at the escalation of franchise value, it doesn't matter how inept you are. You end up making money no matter what. And so there's actually some incentive with the way revenue is shared to be that bottom dweller and do nothing and put nothing into it, which is unfortunate. The Marlins, though, I mean, when you become irrelevant and people don't even know that you're playing, that's not a good thing. They look like they had made a little bit of a move towards turning that around.
Well, 2 years ago. They were a playoff team 2 years ago.
They immediately fired the GM, Kim Eng, who put them in that position with a couple of late season acquisitions, Josh Bell, Jake Berger. They've subsequently traded Berger. Last year, I cashed a big ticket on the under for the
Yes, you
season
did.
total on the
That's
recommendation
right.
of a Marlins insider who said they're not only going to be really bad to begin the season, but they're going to start trading players right away. They dumped Louis Arise, who has won what now 3 straight batting titles.
Something like that.
So they had a legitimate player that was an attraction, who was an engaging player. Seemed to really be enjoying what he was doing on the field, and that goes and it works its way into the emotions of the fans. That they like seeing these kind of guys compete. That's what I pay to see, and so they get rid of all of these attractions and they're just floundering at the bottom. The 2 biggest lies in the world, right, Dave? One would be in life, and it would be especially appropriate right now. Maybe we could have checked in with Santa on that, and that is I'm starting a diet tomorrow. And the second biggest lie in the world is you build us a stadium, and we will promise you that we're going to do everything in our power to build a winning team. And how
Well, some
often do you
teams
see
have
that?
done
It's going to
that.
be total nonsense.
Right. The Marlins did not. Although then again, they did. They have snuck in the playoffs, but other teams have fulfilled their promises, or at least tried to fulfill them. I think there are some owners that you feel great about. I would use the Heat as an example. Mickey Arison is my ideal sports owner.
Yes.
He has a nice seat, and that's about all you see about a Mickey Arison.
Although
Unless there's some massive decision.
He was adamant about hiring Pat Riley. Which,
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
That was his decision. Yes.
He buys a team, realizes that they may have peaked under the previous regime, and understands it's kind of like. And again, I'm going to go way back. I'm trying to think of something comparable, but you make the move. Wait. Oh well, the Dolphins gambling that Don Shula would be available, realizing that Carol Rosenblum, the old Colts owner, was disenchanted with Shula ever since Super Bowl III was a bust for the Colts. And Joe Robbie was like, really? Let's try.
Yeah.
And look what happened. The glory days that people are still living on. And other instances are like that same kind of thing. They're going again way back, the Washington then Redskins going after Vince Lombardi. And by the way, if Lombardi stays healthy, who the hell knows how that turns out? The whole 1970s could have been completely different in the NFL. And one of, I think, the biggest what if in NFL history is what if Vince Lombardi lives 10 or 15 more years?
Yeah,
but that's going way in the past.
Well, with your Dolphin example, though, I mean, it's 50. It's hard to imagine. It's 51 years since their last title, and yet they remained relevant because at least the fans, for the most part, were of the belief that they were trying. And
they are trying. They're not succeeding. I think relevance, Jeff, is only they're relevant locally. Nationally, they're not relevant. I mean, they were in the playoffs. Yeah, they were in the playoffs last year, and having Tua has helped as far as because he was a high draft choice. But I don't know how relevant they are in the national picture. I really don't.
The fans will be suing the Dade County Police for the failures of the team this year.
Well, Tyreek Hill, had his problems with the law. But my point about Mickey Arison is my ideal owner buys the team, gets the best people that he can get, and sits down and shuts up. Signs the checks when you have to make a major decision, or if you, the owner, really want something done, then you get the people to do it, and then you go back and sit there and go, okay, I'll let Pat Riley. I don't know more than basketball than Pat Riley. I don't know more about basketball than Eric Spoelstra. I'm going to let them do their jobs, and if they start to screw up a lot, maybe I'll intervene. But he hasn't had to do that. And that team right now is actually starting to play better. That's how you run a team, in my book.
Yeah, he's a rare individual though for somebody of that amount of guilt, Mickey Arison. Because I'll never forget. It had to be over 35 years ago. I had a sit-down interview with Mickey Arison. I invited him to come to the Flagler Dog Track where I was doing a radio show. I had a friend that knew him through the cruise business, and he consented to do the interview. So the station, I told him, hey, I got Mickey Arison going to come do like an hour interview with me on WIOD at the time. Can we send a limousine for him? They said, yeah, of course. We'll do whatever he needs to accommodate him. So I offered the Mick the limo ride. He said, no, I'm fine. I'll drive myself. and I'll never forget. I mean, so here's Mickey Arison, owner of virtually everything in town. And he's driving to the Flagler Dog Track, not exactly in the most, spiffy of neighborhoods. And sitting down with some radio hack for an hour, and I still am impressed. I remember this indelibly. How humble he was, and how logical he was, and how well thought out everything he said was, and he had a human side to him that you don't often see. Like, contrast that with my brief interview with Tillman Fertitta, who's now going to be an ambassador and the owner of the Houston Rockets, and I guess it was his brother that was part of the UFC, not him. But and the guy got hostile right away because I tried to suggest and a common theme, you've done a zillion interviews, Dave, where you're saying, hey, how is it that a guy could be brilliant in business and then he gets into the sports field and just falls apart and is a shambles at running a sports business? And I was excluding Tillman Fertitta from this category. He took it the wrong way and he immediately shot back, how many bleeping teams do you own, Mr. DJ? And here I am. I'm just trying to show for his book, that he put out, which I never was inclined to read and never would. But and a guy got outright hostile with me, and you would never find that with a Mickey Harrison, no matter how much.
No.
My question might have been misunderstood.
He is a soft-spoken guy. I mean, you look at there's some owners like a Mark Cuban, although I think he's a great owner because he's always trying to do something to make his team better, but he does suck the air out of the room sometimes. And then you have Jerry
Jones. He
put
the Mavericks on the map when they were nowhere, though.
Oh, absolutely. No. Listen,
Yes.
I would, and he actually helped the NBA, I think, when he would war with then Commissioner David Stern. But I guarantee you, privately, Stern loved it, and he was because they both had good intentions. They're both very passionate about their jobs, and while Stern ultimately had the authority, he knew that he found a worthy adversary, and that mini rivalry, which is probably more of a kind of a weird friendship, I think helped the NBA. Because people are going, geez, look at this lunatic in Dallas again. But on the other hand, maybe he's right. You don't have that kind of ownership as much as you'd like to see it. On the other hand, I just got done praising Mickey Harrison for not speaking too much and not getting too deeply involved. So the ideal owner to me, just pay up and shut up. and get
on that
note,
that's it.
I think we did it. We actually managed to do a Santa show for an hour.
You were afraid of that, Dave. You were definitely fearful that this was going to go the distance.
I'm always fearful it's going to go the distance. But I guess then we'll go ahead and wrap it up. You
guys want to give your sign-offs? And
let's do that. Starting when?
Now.
Amazingly, Defo, and we want to first off thank our special guest that we didn't even know we were going to have, Santa Claus, but we are out of time.
Surprise. Yes.
I guess we'll see him. I guess we'll see him in a few days, right? When he comes to the house.
I don't think he's going here. Not after that argument we had about.
Yeah, definitely not to mine.
Well, not to your house, maybe, but I still kind of like Mario Cristobal, so maybe he'll drop me off a little something. But leave the Buffalo leave the Buffalo Trace out just in case. So for Defo and for Tommy and for Santa, and I guess for the vacationing Gary Allen, wherever the hell he is, I'm Dave LaMont. Yep.
Weight
unknown. Parts unknown. Remember those guys in wrestling, Jeff? Parts unknown. Weight unknown.
Weight unknown. They couldn't find a scale to put into the
Exactly. We're out of here. Merry Christmas. Merry
Christmas, everybody.